Well, I did it. I immersion cooled an S19J Pro ASIC miner. It did not go smoothly.
Whoa, okay, stop.
And I did not pick up the right components, but I learned a lot, and man, those temperatures. Okay, this next part is super important. This project was a proof of concept for the warehouse mining farm, and mostly I wanted to try out this Bitcool Dielectric Coolant to see if it could deliver on the promise of super stable temperatures with way less noise than the hurricane room. That said, we used the wrong pump, the wrong tubing material, and a radiator out of a 2007 Toyota Corolla as a heat exchanger. This video will be filled with really good information about immersion cooling, but do not do what I have done here. My name is Nicholas Johnson, and this is the Space Warehouse. So I got a chance to go out and meet the guys and lady at engineeredfluids.com headquarters, where they make these dielectric coolants for use in immersion cooling all sorts of things, from computer servers to EV batteries to Bitcoin miners. I met up with the VP of Operations, Chad Brune. He showed us around their new facility, showed us some of the older projects they had made, and some future whole kit in a box options they're going to be offering in the coming months. He was happy to answer all the questions I could come up with and give advice on how to properly put together an immersion cooling rig for my ASIC miners. Advice I promptly went solidly against for the purpose of filming this video you're watching now. You see, we're starting a road trip today all the way up north to meet in person with and verify the identity of our new US-based mining hardware supplier. And I'm going to pick up a couple more S19J Pros. But that meant I needed to acquire all of the equipment I needed to build this monstrosity all in person and all in one day, so I could have it running and tested before we take off on this long road trip. We started building it yesterday. There are some stipulations when it comes to Bitcool Dielectric Coolant. They have a list of materials on their website that are compatible with the chemical makeup of this stuff. I'll put a link in the description so you can see what you cannot use with it. All of the proper components to build one of these kits are readily available and pretty easy to order and just wait for them to arrive at your house. But driving out and buying the right stuff locally and in person is not. So I got a pump that is way overpowered for the size of this tank, and I'm pretty sure it has the wrong plastic inside that will either just stop working or leak all over the warehouse sometime when I'm not there. We're using clear vinyl tubing. It looks really nice and you can see everything happening, but soon it will become as hard as glass and crack and fail. I couldn't find anywhere that would sell me a dry cooler, a proper heat exchanger. So what we have here is a car radiator zip tied to an old Home Depot shop fan, which did a surprisingly good job of dumping heat before springing a leak on day one of its operation. What I'm saying is if you're gonna do a homebrew immersion cooling mining setup, do not do it this way. But as far as how immersion cooling works, these are the general components one needs in order to build a system. Just build it with components that won't self-destruct when they come in contact with this magic anti-electricity liquid. You will need some sort of tank, many gallons of dielectric fluid. I'm using Bitcool. More on the properties of this heat-sapping wonder juice in a minute. You'll need a fluid pump to move the coolant out of said tank, ideally one made with all metal construction. A heat pump to remove all the coolant you've pumped out of the tank, some hoses to carry the now less hot Bitcool back into the tank, and of course all of the accoutrements that will go with these things. Hose clamps, thread tape, CPVC glue, a willingness to be covered in warm oily substance when something unexpected happens. Oh, and an ASIC machine. You start by prepping the miner. First, these fans are way too powerful to be spinning under the coolant. You don't need them, and you save a few dozen watts by running the machine without them. Unfortunately, and also fortunately, the S19J Pro is smart enough to realize when the fans aren't operating and it shuts itself off to avoid self-destruction. The way you get around this safety feature is by using these little fan spoofers, or fan simulators in this case. I got these ones on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description if you don't want to go searching for them. You're gonna have to pop off the top of the machine to get the fans unplugged and the spoofers plugged in. Once engineeredfluids.com starts selling their immersion kit, they've designed this handle to make use of the screw holes so you can more easily dunk it into the bath without getting your hands full of oil. And they've got some extra long cables for the guts of this thing to make it so that you can leave the control board up out of the fluid so that you can reset it or mess with the Ethernet or use an SD card easier. And also this little black custom riser to get your machine up off the bottom of the tank and direct the fluid up through it more effectively. Unfortunately, this riser wasn't designed for this tank, so Joey and I had to make some modifications in order to get the flow going in the right direction. Now that the machine is prepped, the pump is hardwired in, and the radiator is zip tied to its fan, it was just a matter of getting the Bitcool into the system and checking for leaks. This time, this stuff came in a bucket. Pouring it was easier. No more managing this jug like when I did the GPU immersion. I made it a little more difficult for myself by putting the tank so high up for display purposes. You'll notice the tank is higher than the pump to provide a little gravity assist for priming. In the event that you need to turn it off for any reason, the pump will stay primed. The fluid fluid went in without any obvious problems. A guy could say I was a bit surprised that nothing leaked, considering there was about 20 possible joints that I could have glued the CPVC wrong or just slid a hose over the end of the pipe and clamped it down, hoping for the best. Chad tells me that this fluid has tiny molecules, even tinier than water, so this coolant will find a leak if there is one. That said, we had the system filled up, we turned it on, and very quickly found a leak.
Whoa! Okay, stop. Well, we need a new radiator.
In my head, this pump was basically gonna push the coolant up and dump it into the top of the radiator, where it would fall through the radiator and come back down into the tank, hence the radiator being up so high. Well, I didn't account for the fact that I bought a pump that was about 5 times stronger than what I needed for what I've built here. It immediately pressurized the system, found a leak in the front of the radiator, and then shot a bunch more out the top. This thing didn't come with a radiator cap, and it didn't occur to me to buy one for whatever reason. So, with a quick trip back to the O'Reilly Auto Parts, a new capped radiator zip-tied into the system, and we were back off to the races. This time, we started it back up, and everything was humming along perfectly. Only one thing remained to do: stand on a chair covered in oil and awkwardly hoist one of my $11,000 machines up and into the bath. You can just dunk the whole thing in, wiring and all. It's quite an unnatural thing to do, especially knowing this thing runs on over 3,000 watts of electricity. But doing unnatural things is becoming increasingly more common for me on this YouTube channel, so here we are. And now the moment I had been waiting for since having medium success with my GPU immersion experiment, which is still running. Poof! Success!
Outlet to pump. Pump to radiator, radiator back down to inlet, and then inlet back up, out the top, spilling down.
No leaks, no errors. The machine turned on, found its network, and found its pool and just started hashing away. The green circles were normal, 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 and it even started hashing at 107 terahash. This is a 104 machine. Initial running temperatures were in the 40s and 50s Celsius. Of course, this was just because none of the coolant in the system had found its equilibrium yet, hadn't been heated up yet. We decided just to let this thing run for a couple hours while we went out and got some barbecue with Sarah. The only hurdle left was just to see if this little radiator can keep up with the heat produced by an S19J Pro. After a few hours, the temperatures stabilized with inlet temperatures in the 50s C and outlet temperatures in the 60s. This is amazing! My air-cooled machines are in the 60s and 70s, and that's normal temperature. I took a little 4-second video of this disgusting mess I had put together and sent it over to the boys at engineeredfluids.com. Much to my surprise, and only a few minutes later, this was after business hours on a Friday. My phone rings, and it's the CEO, the VP of operations, and the lead engineer on a conference call, telling me to immediately shut down this system and that I have put my equipment in imminent danger. All these bubbles you can see flowing through the system are bad. They will cause problems with the pump, they'll cause problems inside the miner as they're making their way up through there. The bubbles can get stuck in little crevices and ruin the heat transfer effect of the fluid. And this isn't even to mention that I used all the wrong materials basically throughout the entire system. And car radiators, who knew, are designed for water and automotive coolant. This system was a beautiful proof of concept, and it was doomed. So, just as quickly as we put it together, we went back to the warehouse and decommissioned my immersion-cooled S19J Pro. I just can't wait to build an immersion cooling system with all the proper equipment and specs. So, why would someone want to do this at all? Why immersion cool when air cooling seems to work just fine? For me, I see two main reasons to do this. One, you can make these hoses basically as long as you want, and in reality you should use a hardline CPVC, it's chlorinated PVC pipe. But, and not only are these components about 1/10 as loud as air cooling is anyway, you can run these hoses, you can run these lines outside and have your pump and heat exchanger outside your house, which would leave you with a bath full of miners indoors running perfectly quietly and with almost no heat. The second reason to do this is for longevity. Two of the main factors that lead to these machines failing are heat fluctuation and vibration. When there are heat fluctuations throughout the day with air cooling because of the environment, day and night and all that stuff, the different materials that are in contact with each other, aluminum and copper and silicon from the chips, for example, contract and expand at different rates from each other because of their material mechanics. This can cause tiny microscopic cracks. That gets compounded when you have 4 extremely powerful fans just vibrating away 24 hours a day, speeding up and slowing down as they need to with the temperature fluctuation. But when your machines are bathing in a tank of coolant, the tank will stay very close to the same temperature all the time. The temperature fluctuations will happen in your heat exchanger. You'll adjust the fan to speed that up and slow it down. And any changes in temperature that do take place happen very gradually. Also, the fans are removed, so there's no vibration. Unless you buy a giant pump and use it with the tiny tank and just blast bubbles up through the machine, don't build one like mine. Thirdly, someone's gonna come out with a way to overclock these bad boys, and soon. And when they do, heat mitigation will become your #1 focus in running them faster than they were designed to. And with a properly sized heat exchanger, you can keep these things basically as cool as you want, pretty much however hot they try to get. EngineeredFluids.com is working on a kit right now that they want to have ready to ship, let's say Q1 of next year. Chad was a little unsure of the exact date that they'll be ready for the masses, but this kit will come with literally everything you'll need: a tank, a properly sized pump, a dry cooler, heat exchanger, and all the fittings and wiring. You'll be able to just put it down, fill it up, and plug it in. Goodbye hurricane rooms. And now we're off to Minnesota. I'll be editing this video in the backseat of a truck on a 1,500-mile journey to a frozen land to meet two strangers in a parking lot where I will exchange $20,000 for 80 pounds of computer equipment. I'm really digging the cyberpunk nature of this timeline we're living in.